still relatively
Mama!
Good morning. As you can see, today's session is on silence and solitude, and I wonder how many of you were comfortable with that quiet black screen of nothingness. Before the pandemic, you were probably more used to the opening scenes of this video, the hustle and bustle of life and the noise. You may even miss that moment, or maybe not. Years before I was married, when I lived alone, I would put on the TV for background noise, you know, just have the news on in the background because I was uncomfortable with the quiet. When I would visit rural places and the countryside, I was often acutely aware of the silence, or at least the lack of noise pollution and light pollution that was around. Sometimes I'd even have a ringing in my ears. If you know what it's like if you've been in a loud place with loud music, you've been to a concert or something, sometimes you come out and there's a ringing in your ears, isn't there? It's quite loud, and it takes a while to adjust for that ringing and the noise to go away. How about you? Are you comfortable with silence? With being still? With being alone? Many of us aren't, are we? But we need it. So what is silence and solitude? Solitude and silence involves spending time on our own, with no distractions, in order to better hear the voice of God. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And 1 Kings 19:11-13, I love this, I spoke about it before. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rock before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled the cloak over his face and went out and stood on the mouth of the cave. John 10:3-4 says, "The sheep listen to his voice. He calls his sheep by name and he leads them out. And his sheep follow him because they know his voice." So why should we practice solitude and silence? As Christians, it's imperative we hear the voice of God and then obey. Jesus expects that as his followers, we will listen to him and follow him. We should be so in tune with God that we hear him speaking to us throughout the day, even amid all the distractions and noises that fill our lives. Each of us need periods of solitude and silence to know and hear the voice of God. So some tips around how to practice this, and I have to tell you that I am not the expert at this. I only have really started to enjoy this more and more since becoming a mum, and as a parent you might know that there's lots of background noise, there's lots of demands. Mum, can you do this? Mum, can you find that? Mum, where's this? You know, it's quite noisy. So I actually really enjoy now to just sit in silence, in the quiet, in the stillness, and spend time with God. So like I say, I'm not an expert, but here's some tips and how you can practice this. So find somewhere quiet. Ideally this will be somewhere with no one else around and no man-made noises. It may be in a private room, or it may be in a beautiful place somewhere in nature. I know lots of you enjoy walking and enjoying God in nature, so maybe this is something you can do there. For I know that there's a story of the Wesley brothers' mum, and often she would sit in her kitchen and she'd put her apron over her head, and in those moments the children knew that they couldn't disturb their mum, that she was having time with Jesus. So if you're a parent and you can't get away from your little kids, maybe that's something that you do. Allow yourself to be still and to be relaxed. Close your eyes, be aware of each of the noises around you, and choose to ignore those noises, each of them in turn. Easier said than done, I know. Ask God if there's anything he would like to say to you. If this is too large an open-ended question, then you can ask God about specific areas in your life that you might want to hear him about. This could include your work, a relationship, your relationship with him, relationships with other people, or any other aspects of your life. Write down all that God says to you so you won't forget it, and you can return to it at a later time. Any words that God speaks are priceless and should not be wasted or forgotten. So may you withdraw and spend time with the Father regularly, like Jesus did. He often went off to a lonely place. He withdrew from the crowd to spend time with his Father. It's about getting refueled so that you can be able to go out and face the world and face all that he is calling you to do. May you quieten your soul in that place with Jesus. May you be still and know that he is God. May you hear the Father whisper to you and hear of his love for you as you practice this discipline. Amen.